I met y'all both at a workshop. I just realized I remembered that.
Oh, word. Nice.
An open house, right?
Well, yeah, you wrote a poem about, it's like somewhere in the universe. You remember?
Yeah, I remember it because I revisited it recently. I'm like, yo, I'm joked out because we wrote the word associations down. I was like, yeah, somewhere in the universe, if you listen closely, you can hear some booty cheeks being rubbed on or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I gotta go back and edit that one, maybe add to it.
All right, cool. We're recording. All right, so we have João and Tyree here, and we are talking about your Lent poems. So first off, I just want to know more about this project. Like, what made you create it? But maybe even before you talk about what made you create this project, maybe describe Lent, and because I know it's not a holiday that I observed. So just describing Lent, what does it mean to you as an adult to participate in this holiday?
All right, so I grew up Catholic. I don't practice much anymore, but there are a few things from Catholicism that still resonate with me that I practice on my own. And one of those is Lent. So Lent is really the 40 days after Mardi Gras. So, we in New Orleans, Mardi Gras, we do it all, we kind of indulge, be gluttonous, all that good stuff. And then Ash Wednesday is supposed to be day one of fasting or abstaining from your vices. So supposed to do that for 30 days, and then Easter is when you can kind of reflect and start back if you want. But typically sometimes I'll take off of drinking or another vice, what have you, but sometimes I'll add things. So I think early on this year, and then of course throughout the pandemic, it's been rough it's been kind of hard to get into that creative space consistently. So this year I thought it would be cool to add something for Lent. So practice this new behavior or this positive action every day to kind of keep that ball rolling and keep myself my own writer, essentially. And my brother here, I brought it up to him, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." I mean, João, you kind of take it from there.
Yeah. Essentially, I mean, you pretty much told the story of it for the most part, of just because I'm not somebody that follows much tradition. I'm really kind of horrible with any kind of social traditions or religious traditions. But when Tyree brought up the concept of like using Lent as a way to discipline ourselves to write on a daily basis, that really kind of like put it into perspective for me as something that I could take part in. And so, yeah, that just kind of became what it was. It's like, all right, yeah, let's use this as a writing practice to kind of like sharpen the skills. And and just in rereading some of the work and kind of having to edit it for presentation's sake, I even saw, just from the first to the last date, a kind of like a clarifying of voice, so.
Right.
Nice. Did y'all feel nervous at all about sharing it with like an audience? Because it's still such, like I think on the first write, it's pretty raw, to share it with, an audience online. I feel like for me, that's a big thing. How did y'all feel doing that?
I don't know, Tyree, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, so me sharing to an audience was kind of like staying accountable, rather. And the idea of the whole thing was to be raw and to be open and vulnerable like that. So it wasn't nerve-wracking or anything. It was just part of it, I guess. And I think, it definitely made me think a little more deeply about what I was writing and how I was gonna approach it. And like again, how you said earlier, how our handwriting is very it's part of it. It's very artistic how we write, like how it looks and what we're saying. So I just put it all on paper. I was mindful of how it would be received, but I considered it. I didn't like move within it. Like that wasn't the box that I was gonna stay in. It was rather just something to keep in mind. But I think, and again, it's 40 pieces, so they're gonna like something, you know.
And I'm also curious to know, so during this 40-day period, did y'all meet up to write ever, or was it kind of like just solo and like virtual?
I want to say,
Wow.
yeah, I want to say that it stayed virtual. I think it was just like, I don't know what our time frames and schedules were looking like at the time, but I think it just became
Right.
a thing of like, it'll be, we're gonna keep each other accountable for it. But yeah, it'll be easier in that time frame to just keep it digital. Yeah.
Is that different from
Yeah.
how y'all typically work? Because I know you have a collective as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we do some of our best writing when we do meet in a workshop, because there's just sort of a kind of a surreal element that comes with all of us being in the same room and feeding off of each other's energy and feeding off of the
Mhm.
conversation before we start writing. We find ourselves writing very similar work, even though we all have such different voices. We write very similar, or write. We use a lot of the same word choice, even sometimes, not even discussing it. And then we share amongst each other, and we all like are surprised by each other, and by that connection that comes from the workshop.
So let's move into the reading portion of it. And so I'm just trying to think, do I want to share? Because I have the poems written down. So did y'all want to do like a screen share, or are you okay with just like reading it? What do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I would be down for both. I could screen share and read it, or we could just go right to read it since we all have it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have mine on screen, but if you can share it, that'd be great.
Okay. Does either of you want to go? Well, I guess Joel, you could go first since you have it already, and you can.
All right. All right. In my daydreams, revolution, armies built by citizens of every tax bracket, background, color, gender, and any other boxes on all the other forms and waivers all at once. Agree that the planet and humanity's role on it is more important than any one person's material goals or desire for power. This agreement looks like the disillusionment of the American dream. Looks like the refusal to consume anything from any company that contributes to the planet's destruction without countermeasures. Looks like the abandonment of all structures and institutions, social, political, religious, and otherwise, in pursuit of a sincere understanding and mass equanimity in the face of the stark realization that many of us will not make it to the future we wish to build, but our martyrdom will not be in vain. And then I wake up in America.
Mm.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, that was a lot to like unpack. But yeah, let me leave it on the screen, I guess.
Yeah, what was you feeling that day?
What'd you say? One more time?
I said, what were you feeling that day?
Oh man, I definitely was feeling cynical.
It comes
You know what I'm
across.
saying?
You know what I mean? Like I feel like it might have started with I was inspired by something I'd seen or something I read in the news, or one of the books I was reading, just like again, just daydreaming about, a different life, you know, a better future and what that looks like to me. So it started off very idyllic, idealistic. And then I guess I don't know what happened. I wasn't, I wasn't working a hotel job at that time. So I don't know what hit me that I was just like, okay, well, yeah, it won't be anytime soon. And that's that punchline at the end. It's like, well, yeah, you want all of these things to happen. And in other parts of the world, there are a lot of very like heavy revolutions taking place and a lot of vast changes taking place, but not quite here, at least not quite in the way that we want to see it. And again, that I'm aware that's very cynical. I know there's like a lot of action to be had here, and a lot of action that is taking place here for the greater good. I guess my expectations are just high. You know, but yeah, that's basically where that piece came from.
I think like the repetition in it too creates like there's a sense of urgency, and also like you mentioned the army and and things like that. Like there's definitely like that a sense of urgency, and as well as like a sense of control to the piece, I think, which I think is really interesting. And I also noticed, just in contrast between you and Tyree, yours seems to be more outward, just like observing like what are you seeing and kind of filtering that through your own perspective. And Tyree, I noticed you tend to look more inward and like take an introspective approach to it.
Interesting observation. I've never had that. You're right.
It's like yin and yang, just like reading the different pieces, and
Nice.
yeah, I think this does a really good job at capturing a lot of the different chaotic things that have been happening, in the collective. Because this is around, well, the 30th. This is probably around April, right?
Almost April, yeah.
Okay.
Probably, yeah.
I want to say, yeah, I think the last couple ones we wrote were at the beginning of April. So yeah. But I like that contrast because you realize that these two very different voices still exist in the same environment, in the same social environment. Like we're interpreting a lot of the same things. We're seeing a lot of the same things. And then our voices are still capturing those same things, just with varied attitudes, like you said, just different perspectives on it.
Right. Yeah, I think my next one is kind of like a self-preservation like reaction to this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Affirmation station. It's like, this is America. What can you do about that? You know what I mean?
Let me pull it up so we can look at it. Yes, affirmation station. Okay.
Yeah, so at 8, again, I was trying to do different forms of writing. And on this day, I was just like, what do I need to hear? Like, there's a long road ahead. It's day 8. And I was just like, what can I write? So I came up with this affirmation station series, I guess. I ended up doing about 3 of them, 3 or 4. But so affirmation station, to say, I am loved and I love me. I am blessed. I am power. I survived yesterday and am better today. I am proud of me. To do, rest, give yourself credit, give yourself a break, breathe, cherish the day because you made it this far. Fill your cup, others can wait.
I love this. I love like list poems, and I love affirmation poems. And I'm remembering like when I saw y'all like sharing these different pieces, I think what was really powerful for me was that it was two men like vulnerably saying like, to say I am love and I love me and I am blessed, like that's a really powerful thing to see a man like speak over his own life. And even João, for you to talk about like dreams and like the dreams that you have, for yourself within this country, and like the difficulty to being able to achieve those. There's an aspect of vulnerability there that I think is really necessary for people to witness, which is why I'm so glad that y'all shared these pieces with the world, with Instagram.
I just want to say it's refreshing to actually hear this one, as opposed to just reading it, because I found myself while you were reading it, Tyree, I'm just like nodding my head, like, yeah, I do need to be saying these things.
Yeah.
I do need to be doing these things. So I think it resonates.
Definitely.
And I think that's the power of writing material like this, is that it resonates, so it almost becomes like, especially after so many days in and kind of getting used to the idea that, okay, I've written this by myself, but now I'm going to share it with everyone. You get accustomed to the feeling of like, this is almost, I'm almost obligated to share it, because I want people to know that I feel this way too, and I want to know who else feels this way. Like, I want to engage in the conversation about whether it be, to my style, social ills and social controversies, or more to Tyree style, mental health and men's health, and just generally having this, like, exuding a sense of positivity, in your writing and in your being.
Definitely. I agree. I think what my favorite art is the art that reflects and the art that makes you feel something. So I try to either explain feelings and like scenes that make you feel something, or try to find the common denominator between me and the reader. So in this sense, it's I'm telling myself these things in hopes that the reader does that for themselves as well.
And I love that. I'm proud of me. Like I think that's so important to.
Yeah, I had to hear that day.
Yeah, it's so important to affirm for yourself. And I'm just thinking a little bit about the idea, and we've talked about it, but I don't know if you have anything else to say on just men holding space for each other, because I feel like, especially right now in the collective, we see a lot of women holding space publicly, right? You see like different women's circles and events like that. And so I've heard men say that they feel like there's a lack in terms of like places for them to come together and share vulnerably. So do you have, I guess, anything to say about that? Any perspective to add to that? Because when I saw this, that's what I thought of, like, oh, okay, vulnerably sharing and holding space for each other. And I thought that was what was really beautiful about this project that y'all did together. It was the way that you were holding space. So yeah, I'm just curious if y'all have thoughts on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've definitely benefited from these projects, and from the various conversations we've had amongst ourselves and as a group. And I think so, as a result of that, definitely it's very important for us as creatives and for us as men to be holding space for each other. But also, I want to say that I think it's also important for us to be holding space for women too. That part of the whole project is, it wouldn't even be possible without our two female counterparts. That's what makes the Fort Writers Workshop what it is that there's this sort of there's this balance, of egos and agendas in that, so I don't know. I'm kind of at odds, because on one hand, as an individual, I'm like, I want my voice to be heard. I want there to be space for me. But then on the other hand, I have to recognize that that space has been there for me already. and for us as men already.
Mm.
So, you know, I'm also not opposed to you know, like I already said, holding that space for women as well, and making sure women continue to have that space, you know, amongst men
Definitely.
specifically.
Yeah, I think I like I like good artwork, and I like honest creativity. So the vulnerability is just a part of that. And I think honesty is the best policy in that sense. So again, if you want to connect to with somebody and like deeply, especially with words, where it's not super visual, it's not very, it's very flat. It's a very flat um discipline or medium. So you have to use words that make impact. And I think that there is a lack of safe spaces for men, particularly, especially Black men. But there are people and organizations that are helping to combat that. And again, like it's like making like creating the world that you want. You know what I mean? So we develop a space where we could be who we want it to be, and do express ourselves how we want to. So yeah, it's really been a pleasure being vulnerable and saying that that's okay, and like sharing these unpleasantries and these raw feelings and raw thoughts with the world, and being validated, if only by one person, like my homie. Like even if it's just that, it's like being heard and being validated and being valued in our opinions and our creative process and in our work. That's like invaluable.